next to the false column.
Hello there, welcome to Bringing the Thunder. My name is Emily and I'll be your host for another amazing MediaOps kata. Still with me, as guest, Michiel. And welcome, Michiel. We are busy with a MediaOps series, let's say. We had a previous episode about people and organizations, correct? Yes. There we made some people bookable for your job. We had linked resources, all that goodies.
Indeed.
Today we'll have a new topic, something you prepared for us.
Yeah, to talk about configuration parameters and how we can add those tuples to define for operators what they have to fill in so that the people at the job will know how to configure the device.
Okay, configurator parameters, let's go.
So we're here back in Resource Studio. I have here my camera pool, which we created in a previous session.
Yeah. So we're still at, sorry to interrupt, still at the MediaOps DataMiner services with the apps in the Resource Studio.
Yes.
Okay.
So in here we have a pool on which we already in a previous session also added a capability for the camera resolution so that we could select our resources based on the resolution. So if we say we need a 4K camera, and then we look at what is capable of what resources are capable of, and then we can select the right resource for the job.
Okay.
But not everything that you want to define for that camera pool will impact resource selection, and that's why we also have configuration parameters. So if we look here at the pages of Resource Studio, you will see here that we have configuration management.
Yeah.
If I go there, on our demo system, we already have a couple of parameters like polarization, mod code, frame rate, etc. But we can add our own configuration parameters, and those are parameters that you want to say, this is something we need to configure on the device, and then operators can handle or define a value up front so that once the job starts, they know which value to configure on the device.
Okay, so these configuration parameters, they are linked with devices, but do not impact the job itself.
Not the resource selection, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Later, and that's then for future MediaOps versions, then we will look how those configuration parameters also could be used to automatically configure devices if those devices are also managed and controlled by DataMiner. But at the moment, we can't yet define that in MediaOps. That's something that is coming up. So in here, you have our configuration parameters. And if we want to create our own, we can use here the new configuration button. If we click on that, we can give it a name. In our case, we're configuring a camera. So I'm going to call this one MSA, my initials, to ensure it's unique on this demo system, and then frame rate to say what is the frame rate that this camera needs to record on, and then you can say if this is a mandatory parameter or not. So for example, you have to configure this. We want operators to always define it. It's not optional. Then we can check this one so that you can only confirm the job after the value is defined for this configuration parameter.
So the job cannot start if this doesn't have a value.
Exactly. And then we have a type. So you have text. That means that the operator can freely give in whatever value he wants. Yeah. You can also add a default value if you want. You have a number where you then can define also a default value, the units. You can say min, max range, step size, and decimals. For example, for a frequency, this might be a handy type of configuration parameter.
Really depending on what the device can handle.
Or what parameter you want to configure, what type of parameter it is. And then in here you also have a discrete where you can select between a couple of discrete options. And then for the discrete option, you have again the option between text and number.
Yeah. Can you give some examples of...
So in the case of text, both the display value and the real value will be text. So you can fill in anything you want. If you use number, then the display value will be a text, but the value on the backend that can then be defined on the device must be a number.
Yeah. So on and off, for example, or high and low could be some discrete options.
In our case, we could say, for example, we have a frame rate of 50. 50 and I'll put the unit after it, frames per second. And then the value could be, for example, 50. Okay. And then if I add another option, for example, 60 frames per second, and then I can define a value 60, and I'll add one more for slow-mo, and then I can say 120 frames per second.
And then the operator can only select from those 3 values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can see the actual values here on the right-hand side, which is a number, and our display value, how it's going to be visualized for the operators.
With the units, yeah.
Indeed. And then I can say, okay, I'm ready. I can add this configuration parameter, and now I have my MSA frame rate here available. So what is left now is to say if I use a specific device of the type cameras, I also have to define this parameter when I'm booking that pool. So I'm going back here to our resource pools page. And similar as how we defined what capabilities are applicable for our camera, I'm gonna have to add here it as well. If none are defined here in scheduling, you can use any capability, capacity, or configuration parameter. But if you want to reduce the number of parameters the operators see, or what they should configure on here, then you can define them. And then, of course, only the ones that are defined will be visible.
Yeah. So you're limiting the options here and using these.
Yeah. And as we already defined one here, we must add here our configuration parameter, which we created MSA frame rate to ensure that is also on that pool.
Okay.
And because it's mandatory and it's added to the pool, it will actually automatically be added and shown in the scheduling app. So now if I update our camera pool and I go back to our scheduling application, I'm going to create again a new job, which is going to start in a couple of hours. I can just give this a name, MSA test. And then if I create my job, if I now add our node.
So we are now adding a camera, I guess, to the job.
Here we have our resource pools, so you can select any pool. In our case, I'm going to select the MSA camera pool. You can already see here at the top there is a red hand.
Okay.
So in the case your job is already confirmed, for example, and you want to add another camera, you must first define all the mandatory parameters, and that's indicated that there is a red hand. In our case, my job is still in a tentative state, so I could add it even with missing mandatory parameters.
Yes.
But that's why the red hand is here. If you would be in a confirmed state, you will have to define first a value for the frame rate, and then you can select, for example, 60 frames per second, apply, and then if I select my camera and I add this one as a resource, then you will see here in my table that immediately the configuration status is green, meaning there is some configuration defined on my camera.
If I would not have selected one, here you will also see that red hand.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I can do that as well here. If I add again the other camera that I still have available and I add it without specifying here the value, then you will see here on my job there is still a red hand. And now if I would want to confirm the job, you will get a failed message to say there are still some mandatory parameters missing.
Okay.
So then I first will have to define the frame rate for my second camera, which is maybe one for slow-mo. I'll update this one. And then if I confirm my job, then I will be able, and now my job is in a confirmed state.
Yeah, because everything was green, everything was ready to go.
Exactly.
So I could confirm. Okay.
So that is in a very briefly how you can use configuration parameters on pools and ensure that operators can provide the needed information so that if the job starts, the people have sufficient information to configure the devices.
Yeah, so now if a job is nearing, they can look at the job, see what needs to be configured, also using this gear?
Yes, by opening this gear, and then they should see the value that is defined here.
Yeah, okay, good, perfect. So to recap, we went first to the resource studio, where we selected our resources, if I'm correct. No,
Yes.
we went to the menu, right? On the menu you had configuration management.
Indeed. So we first went here to configuration management
To add new ones if you needed any.
to add a new configuration parameter. Once we added a new configuration parameter, we could link it to the applicable pool or pools.
Yeah, with the scheduling app.
Yes, indeed.
All right, good. Anything else you'd like to share about the configuration parameters?
Yeah, like I already briefly mentioned, in a future version of MediaOps, those will also be available to be used then in automatic orchestration. So then you could define at start or at the stop of your job which automation script has to be executed when that resource has to be configured. So then that automation script could automatically configure the device if, of course, it's managed by the data miner.
Okay, so then it could take the frame rates you selected and immediately do the setup of the device itself.
Well, yeah, then the MediaOps at the start will automatically do it for you.
Oh, yeah, okay. Even better.
Yes. So when the job, the start time passes by, at that moment, an event will be triggered and the automation script will configure automatically for you the things on your device.
Okay, great. Something to look forward to.
Indeed.
All right. For the community that followed along, as you know, you can earn some nice DevOps points by sending us a screenshot. Michiel, which screenshot should they send in?
They can send us a screenshot of the notes table where you can see that there is a configuration status green, so that they have some configuration parameters on their resources.
All right, great. So when you completed the exercise, take a screenshot of this and send it to us via the usual channels. All right, we have more MediaOps katas coming along. Can you
One
give
more.
one more? Oh, it's already the last one?
Next
Oh.
time is the last one.
Okay. What can community expect for the last one?
So in the next kata session, we're going to talk about workflows. So now we have been creating jobs for a specific start and stop time,
Yes.
and then adding our resources to our jobs. But you also can predefine a full workflow so that you can reuse it every time inside of your job, so that you don't have to manually add every time all the individual resources and add the connections in between.
Okay.
So then you can basically build the workflow once, and when you create a job, you will select the workflow to be used, and then automatically all nodes will be added.
All right, even more conveniences coming up.
Indeed.
All right, I'm excited. I hope you're looking forward to it as well. We'll see you then. Bye.